Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Playground Chat with me, Omar Hamed, and
Shilalwa.
Thank you. This is a show whereby we interview politicians on their manifesto about children, what they think should be done to children, and how we can improve the rights and the welfare of children in our country. And today, we are proud enough to have Esther Passaris. How are you?
Thank you, Omar. I'm good.
Thank you.
Sheila, thank you.
So we're going to start our questions. I'm going to ask you the first question. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm good.
You're good?
Tight schedule, but because you are so important, an important segment of our population, I decided that I'm going to spare you the 15 minutes that you asked for this interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the first question. What was your childhood experience and leadership role as a child?
Okay, so I went to school in Mombasa. I was born and bred in Mombasa. And I was a class prefect, I was a class monitor, I was a head girl. So I got those leadership positions very early in school. And I think the reason I got them is probably because I was very naughty and the teacher needed to make sure that naughty me didn't have a gang. So as a result, I became a leader. And then, of course, when you become a leader, you have to lead by example. So it meant that if I have to lead everyone else, I have to also have my own disciplines. And it's not a task that you take lightly because people depend on you for guidance. People depend on you to fight for their rights in schools even. And so I was a class monitor. I don't know why they called it monitor, then prefect, then head girl.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're like basically saying that leadership doesn't just start when you're older, but when you are in school also.
I mean, there's always this talk about are leaders bred or born? I think they're both bred and born, right? So it's anyone can be a leader and everyone leads. If you and I are deciding to go out for lunch and I say I want to have
Pizza.
I want to have pizza, and you say you want to have KFC. Now, if you win and I end up going for KFC, is you've led me to KFC, right?
Wow.
So you've kind of taken control of that scenario and led me. If I am shouting at a friend or I'm looking for a fight and you come to me and you say, oh, that's not nice. I think guys, stop fighting. At that point, when you take charge of a situation or a scenario and you say don't or do, you're leading. So leadership happens in many, many ways. If mom comes down and says, hey, children, be quiet, put off the TV. And she's going off to the supermarket, put off the TV, go and do your homework. If the other children decide, no, we're going to sit on the dining table only when we hear mom's car coming back, and you say, no, mom has said, we're going to put off the TV and do our homework. So no TV. At that point, you're taking a leadership role. So leadership is something that you acquire as you move along, where you want to do things right. But there are also leaders who can lead people to the wrong path. So we've got good leaders and we've got bad leaders.
Yeah, if you were a child, what would you change?
If I was a child, not giving my mother, if I was a child again, I probably wouldn't give my mother the kind of headaches that I gave her when I was growing up. You know, I think I would have not resented everything that she taught me. And I would have basically loved her more for trying to teach me the right way. I mean, there's a scenario of a friend who said to me that, you know, my father always called me stupid when I was growing up. And somebody said to her that, you know, you look at that as something really painful and you hate your father for having called you stupid. But when you look at the final analysis, because he called you stupid, you became very successful because you always wanted to prove yourself. So whatever our parents do for us, some of it is for our own good, and we have to look at the positive in it. Of course, not when your parent is abusing you. We've seen parents also through their own frustration or through their own experiences or being not ready to be parents, have abused their own children. So it's a balance. But I feel that if I were to become a child again, I would appreciate everything that my parents told me to do, and not have taken it as mom or dad doesn't love me, or they don't want the best for me. Yeah.
Wow. I know you've been a leader right here in Nairobi. Have you ever been involved in any children issues?
But we're always involved in children's issues. Children's issues from a broad spectrum. Children's issues from early teenage pregnancies. Children's issues from children born out of defilement and then being abused by their mothers, or rape. Children's issues based on not having the right education, or not having food in schools when they need it, or being in orphanages and not being provided everything that they needed to be provided. There's a whole, or not having enough playgrounds, not having uniform, and then feeling, and then bullying. Right now, the biggest crime against children is bullying. You find a lot of children go through bullying. How do you tell children about being nice to each other? Because a child who is not happy will actually try and take their own frustration on other children in school. So there are many, many children issues. There's also sanitary towels for girls. Boys understanding that sanitary towels are not something to be ashamed of and make fun of the children. And then also boys taking out their own pressures on other boys. So it's a whole spectrum of issues, from economic, social issues. Yeah.
Okay, do you feel that there's any key issue that should be improved after the 2022 elections?
Almost every issue is key. Every issue is key. And the reason why I say that is, it could, not having food for one child might not be the same for another child. So just because majority of children can afford to get the 10 shillings or pay the 10 shillings or 15 shillings to get food, the ones who can't, right? Books. We saw that during this pandemic, when we went into online learning, a lot of children could not afford laptops. Other children could. So you find that now we widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots. So every issue that pertains to any person in the population, children, women, men, youth, has to be catered for. We can't look at majority issues and forget about minority issues, because our constitution says that we should protect and provide for everyone equally without any discrimination. So I wouldn't want to say one issue. I think we have to reduce the congestion in schools. We have to make sure that all the children have access to calculators if it's needed, have access to the books, have access to food. I've been to schools where I see children who have lunch, and other children are just going through without lunch. They're left home without breakfast. They have no lunch. They have to study the whole afternoon. So we used to have a program as government to provide meals. But then again, government has to be more sensitive to mission-led schools as well as community-based schools. Government looks after public schools, right? And then we have to have counseling and social services so that the children can bring the problems that they have at home, and then government can also address those problems at home. Because we saw during the pandemic, a lot of young children got pregnant. Over 200,000 girls got pregnant. And we have to do a statistics on how did they get pregnant. So they need someone to talk to, right? So I don't think I want to single out any one issue. With government looked at sanitary towels. We had meals and then we took away the meals. Government's looking at now comprehensive sexual education, where we talk to you about the yes and the no in terms of your body, right? So we have to move with the times. Children have exposure, TV, radio, social media, and you're learning a lot of things very early. And then we find you are experimenting amongst yourselves, right? Your hormones are raging, and then you end up with a girl pregnant, a boy continues school, the girl drops out. So every issue that relates to every child needs to be looked at. Of course, there'll be priority issues, but I don't think there's any one issue, including your safe space in your family home, in your environment. One of the things that I see in a lot of schools is a lot of dust. And a lot of children have, COVID, the pandemic is all about respiratory. So all that dust that the children are consuming. So how do we stop having dust in the schools? How do we reduce the dust? How do we green the playgrounds? These are all issues. But of course, all these issues require money. And corruption being the big animal in our country, we have not enough resources to do everything that we need to do. But as a member of parliament for Nairobi County, which is the biggest county in Kenya, having the huge population that really have urban poor, I will make sure that children issues are looked at every stage.
Thank you so much for actually bringing up, the rates of pregnancy here in Nairobi. I am aware that Nairobi has the highest rates in teenage pregnancies. So what do you plan to change about that?
Well, first of all, I support comprehensive sex education where you're taught about your bodies and the do's and the don'ts. I support children who are sexually active getting contraceptives. But of course, the Catholic Church and the church as a whole refuses to discuss such things objectively. We look at the West as being people of bad morals, right? But the West is actually adjusting to the society. When you find a country in Europe that's giving a child an ability to get contraceptives at 14, it's not because they want to encourage them to have sex. It's because they know that they're having sex and they want to discourage them from getting pregnant. Because a 14-year-old girl should not be getting pregnant. She should be finishing with her school. But if she's sexually active, she should be given the contraceptives. So I think as a country, right now, we don't want to listen. We don't want to do it. But the price of that is having a 10-year-old girl who has already got her menstruation, getting pregnant, delivering the child and dying on the delivery table. So there's so many wrongs. So we have to find a way as a country to look at the problems. Countries that are considered very, very religious, right? Like Ireland, Italy, Greece, which have the Greek Orthodox, they wrote the Bible, have already legalized safe abortion. But we have to also not just, abortion should not be a birth control. We have so many other ways to stop pregnancy. So I want parents to really be able to talk to their children. And I hope that the government will move with speed to ensure that contraceptives are available. For instance, in England, a 14-year-old girl, or in Europe, a 14-year-old girl can go to a hospital and say, I'm sexually active, I'd like to be on the pill. They look at her health and they give her a pill or a contraceptive, and they will not tell her parents because the law has already provided for her so that she doesn't feel like she's doing something wrong. She's already sexually active. She wants to not have a child. She wants to continue her education. But Kenya, we're still trying to say no, and then we provide over 500 million to 1 billion for post-abortion care, where majority of these young girls end up dead.
Very true.
So we have to be able, first of all, you have to educate each other, and that's where leadership comes in. If you know about the risks of sex without protection, besides pregnancy, it's also STDs, you also educate your peers. You become an ambassador to say, hey guys, you know what? We're not allowed contraceptives by our government. We have to be very careful because it's not just about pregnancy, it's also about STDs. There is a high increase in HIV infections right now with our children.
Yeah, we are almost a half of the Kenyan population. Why is it that our rights are less discussed?
Your rights are discussed. There are many bills and laws pertaining to children's rights. The thing is, we have limited budgets. And then, of course, the problem we're having with children is, of course, the religious institutions refusing us to do what is necessary to protect the child. Majority of the children that are born today, you have a family of 8. The woman doesn't have a job. She doesn't have a husband. She's a single mother or she's a widow. And she's got 8 children. She can't feed them. She can't look after them. What happens? The child suffers. So we have to do more to make sure that that woman is educated, not to have children that she can't look after. Because when you have so many children, right, you have less to give, right? So I have 2 children. My maid had 7. Because of customs and tradition, she wanted to give her husband, who she's a second wife, a son. So that for me is lack of education, right? We can't have children just to have children. We have to have children because we can love them, we can provide for them, and we can protect them. So we have to make sure that we have enough resources to ensure that we can provide more contraceptives. Majority of these contraceptives that we provide, even for your parents, comes from donors. And now donors are also struggling up post-pandemic with their own countries. So we have to find a way to make sure that we budget for contraceptives and education everywhere in our various medical facilities.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, as you've heard that our show is called The Playground Show, right? So children all over Kenya usually complain all the time that they don't have enough playgrounds. Or you might find that in some schools, they actually have a really minimal space whereby they can, play, and, children have a right to play so that, they can expound on their, as they're coming up. So what can you do about that? Or what do you think can be done?
Well, I manage a fund called the GAF, National Government Affirmative Action Fund. And we're putting out 3 playgrounds. It's nothing, it's a drop in the ocean, all right? Schools require to put money into play, sporting equipment, fields and grounds. Unfortunately, a lot of land has been grabbed, and it's very sad that we've not been able to recover most of this land. But there will come a time, just like we broke down many, many houses that were on the road reserves and on the paths where we were supposed to have the various bypasses, we will one day break residential estates that we know the land was for school, or we will budget huge sums of money to expand the schools. Because there is no way you can send a child to school the whole day and put them behind a desk. It's not even good for their backs. They need to get out and play and enjoy the fresh air. We need to green our schools as well with trees. So that's a project that I'm also doing, greening some of the schools. We also need to have greenhouses in the schools, so that the schools can have healthy food and the healthy greens. So there's a lot of work to be done, and much as we've started that in my first term, we still have to continue it. And then we all lead by examples. As other members of parliament see what you're doing, or you see what they're doing, we learn from each other how to improve and do the best that we can for our children. Of course, we need more budgets as women representatives. Our budgets are very, very low. But so long as we do the maximum we can with the one that we have, we are still serving the people with whatever we were given to serve them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, how are you planning to have our roads safe for children going to school?
Okay, so having, I was called Mama Ta because I came up with this project called Adopt a Light, which brought the first lighting tower into the informal settlements. And with most of the children leave home when it's still dark. In the informal settlements, you're walking to your school and it's dark. Yeah. It's so easy for you to be pulled down and taken into a corner and abused. You also have children that are being put on boda by their parents. And we don't have school buses everywhere. And when you tell the parents to contribute, they say they don't have money, not even for lunch. So poverty is our biggest deterrent for development. You're the generation that Kenya will be entrusted to, right? So when you get home, you tell your parents that the person who can set the country on the right path is the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and they should go and vote for him because you're not voting age yet. And the reason they should vote for him is because his program of Azimio la Umoja is all about uniting us. You cannot build this country if we are divided as a people. Even at home, if your mother and father are not getting along, the house will collapse. So you need your parents to be one unit, and we need this country to be one unit for development.
So I'm sure you've been hearing about our CS for Education saying that he wants to reintroduce, actually I think it's already been reintroduced, corporal punishment. What is your take on that?
Well, I didn't die from all the chapping I got when I was in school. I didn't die. I mean, my mother was the queen of corporal punishment. She used to have this sisal rope that was plaited. And then to make it painful, she knotted it. She knotted it. And she soaked it in salt water to make sure that the strikes were hard.
Oh, from the coast?
Yes. And she used to hit us every time we were naughty. And it made us become who we are today. I don't hate my mother because of the whacking I got.
Yeah.
At that time, I got the whacking. I even used to bleed and have the lines. And if that was in the UK, my mother would have been in jail for doing that. So I feel that the indiscipline that our children have today we have to teach them and mold them from a very early age. The teachers used to whack us here with a ruler. I mean, wow, this used to pain like hell, you know, whack us here. It still happens, you get whacked. Okay, so that used to happen. You used to be sent to a corner in the classroom and go stand in the corner and look at the corner. Man, that little corner wasn't fun, looking at the corner. Or you'd be the one to arrange the books after school. I think we need a form of punishment. We do it to the adults. When they commit a crime, we throw them into prison, all right?
Yeah.
So we need to have some method of disciplining our child. But then we've seen fathers and mothers disciplining their children and killing them.
Yeah.
You know, so there has to be limits. Whatever discipline you want to do to your child has to be from a point of love. So this young girl decided to go discoing when you told her not to go discoing, and she didn't come home. She came the next morning. The next morning you chapa her to the point that she ends up in the morgue. So now she went out for one night and you banned her from coming for the rest of her life because you killed her. Yeah. So we have to remember these are human beings and these are children. If you beat her so hard, aanguke agonge ngazi, atakufa. Or brain damage. So when you're punishing your children, whichever form of punishment you choose as a mother, make sure that the punishment is not going to end the life of your child. Make sure that the punishment is not going to scar your child emotionally and make your child hate you. Baka anakimbia kutoka nyumbani. You know, children are running away from home because of the punishment. We have to try as much as possible to discipline our children with love. And the first thing the parents should do, send your child to the room, lock them there. After some time, you bring the child back and you explain to the child nicely. What you did was wrong. Talk to the child, because this is your child. Discipline starts at home. The indiscipline we're seeing in the schools is because there is no discipline in the house. And this, people have said this has happened because mama anaenda kazini, baba anaenda kazini, watoto wanaachwa peke yao with the maid or the house help. So they're not able to learn. So I suggest that we have a structured booklet on discipline at home and discipline in schools. Let's spend some money on educating a child and the parents on how they can blend together for discipline, also with the schools. We don't want to see children dying. Yeah. Some teachers have been disciplining their children by defiling them. You know, I mean, this is crazy. You have a child that says, I didn't do the right thing, nimemwambia mwalimu vibaya, and the teacher raped me. So that, you know, we have to make sure that discipline does not become taking advantage and emotionally and psychologically destroying a child. Let's not kill our children as we try to discipline them. Now, I want to ask you a question as we end this interview. The CS recently said that children of LGBTQI should not come to school. Do you know what LGBTQI is? Right? So they should not attend school. Right? What is your take on it? I mean, a child who is intersex, born with two organs, not sure whether it's a boy or girl, or a boy who is completely gay, but I don't see how the CS sees these things at an early age, because these things establish themselves as the child reaches the age of 18. So now he says that if you're a lesbian, a future lesbian, or a future gay, or an intersex, or a queer, you should not go to school. So what is your take on that population, which is about 15% in every community? Well,
Okay, you know, I'm part of children advocacy. Basically, I fight for the rights of the children. So these people, I won't say that they should not be accepted to go to school and get education, because when we just leave them like that, then they'll not even know how to control themselves. They'll not even know how to, you know, be with the other people in the environment, in the ecosystem. So not that I basically support bad things, but these children should go to school because they're children.
Okay, so
and it's their right.
All right, I want to correct you there. It's not bad things. It's not bad things. Some of them are born that way. All right, they're sexually oriented differently. You might grow up and love a girl. She might grow up and love a girl. doesn't mean that it's wrong. She just is not attracted to boys. And you might grow up and say, I'm not attracted to girls, I'm attracted to boys. It's something that happens, and it's been proven that it's genetically in their makeup. It's not a bad habit, all right? It's not a bad habit, it's who they are, all right? It's how they are wired. It's how they were created. And we say that everybody's beautifully made in God's image.
Yeah, in God's image.
I'm glad that you feel that they should also have education so they can not feel isolated and rejected and to grow in our society like everyone else, right? And what about you, Sheila? What do you think?
I just support what Omar said, because if you are educated, stealing is bad, or if you have at least an idea of what you're supposed to do or of how you are supposed to control yourself, when these people are close to us or the environment, you see, they'll be in a conducive environment whereby they'll have to do what they are doing because you've said it is genetically. So they'll have just to do it where it's not like they're doing it in public or somewhere like that. They'll just do it, but they'll at least talk to us, we'll interact, like we'll make them feel appreciated.
Well, yeah, one of the things that I'd like to see us to know is that you could have completely heterosexual children, right? And they will experiment if they are boys and if they are girls with each other because their hormones are raging. If it's a mixed school, the boys will go with the girls. If it's a girls' school, the girls will go with the girls. If it's a boys' school, the boys will go with the boys. That doesn't change their sexual orientation. So whether you cannot see the sexual orientation of any child until they've reached adult age, and they are then able to decide sexually that I am a boy, I'm a girl, I'm a gay, I'm a lesbian, or I'm a queer, whatever, all right? So for me, I feel that every child deserves to be in school. So you see, some of the challenges that we have as leaders is to try and protect, as I said earlier, we don't choose one issue. As a leader, I have to protect all the issues. My own immediate family is not affected by the LGBTQI sexual orientation, but it doesn't have to be my family. It's other children out there that are affected and that need to be supported because the parents didn't ask for this, right? Didn't do anything wrong for this. It just so happens to be the way the world is. When they wrote the Bible in those days, there was not so much research as there is today that tells us now it's genetic. Intersex is a child that is born with both sexual organs. They cannot, Kenya does not even provide that operation to take the child this way or that way based on their orientation. And then you find when the child has grown up, sometimes the parents made a decision at their young age and it was the wrong decision. They removed the testicles and then they left the child with a vagina, and yet the child was a boy. So these are conditions in the world. The one thing I want to leave you all with, always be objective. And then always know that the God who loves us is the only one that is supposed to judge us. Mind your business, your business. I was told that there are 3 businesses that we run in this world. The first business is God's business, where God is in charge. We can pray, but He's in charge. The second business is your business, all right? And the third business is other people's business. So when you manage your own business and you pray to God for His business, you will lead a very good life. When you start, instead of managing your own business, you're worrying about everybody else's business, you will be very frustrated, cause a lot of problems in the world because that's their business to manage. You have to manage your business. And then to get connected with God's business, which is the most profitable business,
mind your business.
Prayers. Connect with your God and pray and ask Him for everything that you need. Wow. I've got to say thank you very much. I enjoyed being in the playground and being asked what I can do. And I'm honored to have been the first member of Parliament that you've engaged. And I wish you all very well in everything that you do. Study hard, become leaders, tomorrow, so that we can make sure that this country goes in the right direction. Happy New Year to everybody, and God bless you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of the Playground Chat. I have been your host, Omar Ahmed, and my co-host, Sheila Lwangu. But for now, I say goodbye.